Most conversations about fertility start in a doctor's office. Sam Diamond decided to start hers much earlier than that. Bird&Be was built around the idea that women deserve earlier information, better tools, and more transparency around fertility before they're already in crisis. And the timing couldn't be more relevant. Canada just recorded its lowest fertility rate ever at 1.26 children per woman, well below the population replacement rate. StatsCan is now officially classifying Canada as an ultra-low fertility country. At the same time, women are partnering later, building careers longer, freezing eggs at record rates, and trying to reconcile modern ambition with biological timelines that haven't evolved nearly as quickly as society has. Sam built Bird&Be at the intersection of all of it: fertility, consumer health, modern womanhood, and the massive information gap that women are still navigating around their own bodies. So today, we're talking about fertility, entrepreneurship, timelines, IVF, egg freezing, misinformation, ambition, and what women desperately wish they knew earlier. Sam Diamond, you are built for this. Sam Diamond, co-founder of Bird&Be, you are built for this. Welcome to the pod.
Thanks for having me, ladies.
Thank you for being here.
Welcome.
So the first question we want to know is where Bird&Be actually came from. Like, was there a moment that you thought, why has nobody figured this out yet?
There was a few moments. And so I'll take you back to the first one when I was early diagnosis with PCOS, which has now been renamed to PMOS.
Yep.
And I started the process of navigating that and was basically just told, you're going to go on birth control. It's going to manage your symptoms. When it's time to have a baby, you're going to want to come off probably earlier than you might be planning because you can anticipate some problems. So there was no conversation around anything related to lifestyle intervention. It was just the birth control pill, which is a great part of intervention.
Yeah.
It's excellent to manage symptoms, but there was no second part of the conversation.
Right.
And I didn't realize that until later in life when I began to struggle with fertility. The part two was during the struggle, I experienced miscarriage and I knew the statistics, but I didn't understand the process. I didn't understand how it would make me feel. And so post pregnancy loss and then struggling for months and months and months with even just trying to get a cycle, I was then exposed to the naturopathic integrative health piece of the journey. And it was at that point where I was lugging around literally a huge box of supplements everywhere I went, in addition to navigating pages and pages and pages of instructions and trying to shop for all of these very specialty supplements from like 7 different shops. And I, kind of looked around and realized that there had to be a better way. And on top of just the physical product, why had no one even mentioned this?
Right.
Why was I waiting to struggle before intervention was offered?
That's what it seems like is like always the case, is that it tends to, like, the system feels like it's built around when things go wrong.
Yeah, it's reactive.
It's all reactive. Like, there's so little proactive. Very interesting.
Yep. But even the research that it takes to even find the products separately, like you were, figuring out yourself on the shelves of so many different places. A lot of people, when they're in that mental state, can't even carry that, burden of trying to figure it out themselves. So when you were kind of creating these products for yourself, when did you get the idea to create like your first product underneath this brand?
Well, it was a combination of when I met my co-founder, Brianna, who was struggling the exact same way that I had. And we connected with our naturopathic doctors who work with us to this day and put it to them to say, what do you wish you could tell your patients, years in advance? What do you wish your patients had access to way before they came to see you? And how could we make the patient experience better? And as part of the build out for Bird&Be, we then went and interviewed hundreds of people we wanted to speak to both the consumer and the providers. So basically validating that our problems were not just our own problems, but really listening. We built our entire company around listening, and we've changed things over the years based on customer feedback and provider feedback.
Smart.
So we needed to hear from our future customers. What are the problems? What do you wish you knew? What have you struggled with? What would make your life easier? And then the providers, what is missing when your patients arrive?
It seems so crazy that in 2026 that's a conversation that we're only just having. Like it's actually mind-blowing.
Well, it's a massive, it's just the underserviced part of healthcare,
Right.
which is women,
Right.
you know, in a way. How
is.
obviously you're seeing it and building a business to support women in their most critical phases of life. But it's crazy for us to even just sit here and talk to you about the fact that this didn't exist before.
Well, I
Like,
think
and like to me, it's sad. Like I have lots of friends going through infertility right now, and thankfully there's a product that can help them, or has done the due diligence and research for years to like come up with something.
Yeah, I think on top of it just being about the product, as a society, perhaps we've waited too long for public health to step in.
Right.
And there is no standardized public health programming around anything related to proactive reproductive health. And that's where consumer companies who do the work and who are backed with science and who have the right scientists and doctors around the table can provide that for the consumer.
Right.
So the first year working on the product, what did that look like operationally? Like you have this idea. How do you bring it to market? How do you actually, like, who's the first person you call? What does it look like?
There was so much, I call that the arts and crafts period.
Yeah.
There was a lot of cutting and pasting. We called a lot of people. We talked to people in pharmacy. We spoke with people in patent law. We spoke with manufacturers from California to China. We spoke with product developers and, of course, OBGYNs and naturopaths and dietitians. And we were really trying to wrap our heads around how we could deliver something that took that load off that you were just talking about. Like you're literally a second full-time job of trying to cobble together care on top of the care plan you're already given, on top of
probably your job.
Yeah. And so we came up with the idea of trying to package what the doctors wish you were taking from a supplement perspective in a very easy little to-go packet where it was sorted for you so you can get rid of your box of supplements. You can get rid of the pill sorting every Sunday. You can have the dose and the form of the vitamins that there is evidence behind and that these doctors are actually recommending in clinic. So for those folks who can't afford to go to multiple integrative medicine specialists on top of treatment, you can trust that we have done the homework for you. And then finding someone to package this, it's not common to find this type of machinery. That was a journey. I remember trying to figure out how we were going to then package. It started out not in single packets, but it came on a roll. We worked with a pharmacy at the very beginning, and we were trying to figure out what packaging would look really nice, but also be functional. And I remember going to Dollarama and getting every single standard size box. So I had a full dining room table of like cookies and crackers and chips of all the standard box sizes.
Now I'm picturing the arts and crafts.
Full arts and crafts. It's cutting them up, sticking the roll in, seeing what pulled out. We then went crazy with colors for our packaging because it was so important to us that this was not typical pink and blue with, pictures of babies. Like that is triggering for anybody who's going through a journey. You don't need that. That's not helpful. And so we printed out so many color varieties, and we would walk up and down the streets. And this was still COVID. From afar, we would show people the color palettes and have them pick. We would post on social media, like what combinations of colors, and then naming the product was like, don't even get me started on the iterations that we went through.
But I love branding and the creative exploration, kind of coming up with the name, the creative positioning, the platform, not just for like these products, but 5, 10, 20 years out. How did you come up with the name?
The name was part of the first iteration of Bird&Be. When this was pre-COVID, we had a different team entirely and almost a very different idea. And the company was called something else. And we realized after trying to pitch this to a few investors that it was really not working. We rethought the naming process, and I was on a call with our lawyer at the time and just riffing. Yeah. And we're like, what is reproductive health? Like, what does it mean to you? What do you think about? And we were going back and forth like the birds and the bees, the birds and the bees. And he was live trademark searching while I was on the call. And we landed on Bird&Be as more singular, making the bee less of a cutesy insect and more of a being, like being present, be.
Like, I think you see yourself in it, like the bird and the bee. Like you see it's in a way.
Yeah, it's a nod to, the classic reproductive health talk.
The birds and the bees.
Birds and the bees with a little bit of modernization and just something a little bit different.
Yeah, it's very clever.
Thank you.
So we just hit in Canada, we hit a record low fertility rate of
1.25 children per female, and the replacement rate to keep the population stable is 2.1.
Which is crazy because people are just having kids later.
Right.
Yes.
And less of them.
Yes.
And when you look at that, do you think that this is mainly a fertility issue, a cost of living issue, a timing issue, or all of the above?
I think it's a combination of everything. So we know that age is the number one factor in fertility. So we cannot change the fact that when we age, our eggs decline in quality and quantity. There's no solve for biological aging. We all go through the process as women. And we are having children later. We're having children a decade later than our parents did. And as a result, fertility declines. There are certainly things you can do to protect your eggs and to optimize outcomes. And it also impacts men, by the way. People don't talk about the fact that age impacts male fertility too. So it's a combination where we are all having children later. As a result, there are more fertility issues. Fertility care is expensive and it is not in reach for everyone. The cost of living has gone up. A lot of people are struggling to make ends meet with, what they've got today. And so they're making different decisions around family and family planning. And I think it's a combination of many factors for sure.
And you were talking about age, and I feel like we get pressures all the time. Like you get married and people are like, well, so when's the kids coming? And you're like, I'm just starting my career and life's great. Today, we were just discussing before you came, what's actually considered a geriatric pregnancy? I've heard like 35, but is that actually what it's classified as?
Yes. So we hate the term geriatric pregnancy.
Like that sounds like an old lady like delivering a child.
It's terrible. It's terrifying. We don't like that. So yes, technically it is over the age of 35.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Fertility begins to decline on, around age 33 is kind of the first.
Like no one knows that.
And people don't know that.
No one knows
right?
that.
But it's not a cliff. It's not a cliff.
Yeah.
So it's not like you turn 35 and all of a sudden, bam.
Right.
Just there's elevated risks of certain things that happen in pregnancy as we age.
Right.
Again, like this is not meant to cause panic. It's meant to be very clear and evidence-based that this is something that happens. And so we now have such incredible technology so that women can make decisions earlier on about how they want to proceed.
Right. And in an ideal world, at what point would that education, that information flow start happening? Like at what age?
I think this should be mandatory university courses.
Yeah.
We should be teaching women and men what it means to be healthy and proactive about not only their reproductive health, but about their health in general. And I think we've gone down a really dangerous path. I was talking about this before with you. I think we've gone down a very dangerous path with cannabis use and it becoming legalized everywhere and normalized. It's really bad for your reproductive health. And
you were saying for the male side in particular, right?
Really, really bad.
Yeah.
Anything that's creates that much oxidative stress in your body. So alcohol, highly processed sugary foods, even sun damage. These things are terrible for your body and they're terrible for your reproductive health. And we need to be standardizing the fact that we should be living a healthier lifestyle. First of all, it would alleviate a lot of problems in our public health system if this was being taught earlier. But also, wouldn't it be great for women to know that they do have options?
Yeah.
And here are the signs and signals to look out for as we're aging through our 20s so that I probably need to see a doctor if my menstrual cycle is irregular.
Right.
That's not normal.
Right. And we're being told constantly that it's normal.
Don't worry about it. You're fine. You're healthy.
Worry. Irregular periods, missed periods, painful periods. It's all, it's considered
not normal.
Right.
I have friends that have gone through such journeys to have their endometriosis diagnosed after, 6-7 years of going to however many doctors and pleading with them about pain, about periods that cause them to miss work.
Yeah.
And only to find out, they have stage 4 endometriosis that needs surgery.
And how is that so? Because I hear that story a lot, right?
I call it PCOS, but now you said there's a different terminology for it.
But we can call it PCOS.
But I just hear more and more people are being diagnosed with it, but it's because I think women are being more proactive and asking more questions and advocating for themselves.
An education factor with healthcare practitioners or like, what is it? Like, how is it so difficult to get a diagnosis for these things?
Well, there are not a huge number of doctors who subspecialize in these specific categories. So, for example, when you think just about fertility and reproductive health, these doctors are called reproductive endocrinology and infertility specialists. Guess how many there are in Canada?
Right, it seems very specialized.
I'm going to take a wild guess, like
5?
No. 150.
Oh, okay. I was just, but that just lets you, like, the fact that we just don't, the only reason I know fertility clinics, because obviously I just went through my own journey with my own child, but also there's like the fertility clinic called Twig, and people are making it now cute and consumerifying like all these different options. But yeah, I never even knew that was a title of an actual doctor.
That's their title. And when you think about it, so in the US, there's probably closer to 1,300.
Which is still small.
Guess how many dentists there are in the US?
Do we even want to try that one?
200,000.
Okay.
I would have been really off.
Yeah.
So when you think about the population, the population who really needs this care, it's not that easy to access the specialists and subspecialists who treat. And, some of the doctors who are coming up through residency and fellowship and training now are more attuned to the way that women are talking about reproductive health and proactive healthcare in general. That hasn't always been the case.
Right.
And so it's a new lens for sure.
Mm-hmm. And when we're talking about egg freezing, creating an embryo and all the things women are supposed to be doing proactively, whether it's in their 20s or 30s, they're single. Can you walk us through what that process looks like?
I can try. So it is now being recommended that women who want to freeze their eggs should freeze them when they're ready. So before, many doctors were saying, you can wait until, you're in your early 30s or whatever, which you can.
Right.
But I am hearing more and more fertility doctors tell patients and tell the public, freeze them when you're ready, because you're
ready emotionally
and
Yeah.
financially when you're ready.
Right.
If you're 25 years old, your eggs are going to be better quality than they are when you're 32.
And Sam, so when you're saying that they're now saying that medical professionals in the industry is now saying that you want to start when you're ready, where is that information being pushed out?
A lot of it is through now medical professionals and their social media.
Right.
And it's through clinics who are intaking patients, who are booking a consult, and who are coming in for, a fertility workup at whatever point in time and saying, well, what age really should I? And many of the doctors will say, there's no rush and no pressure, but when you are ready, we're here.
Yeah.
And it's important, I think, that, real evidence-based medical professionals are on social media.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you face this huge white space, which is part of what we were trying to fill with Bird&Be in the education and evidence-based, blogs and social media posts and newsletters that we provide. If you have that kind of a gap, it's going to be filled with crap.
Yeah.
And you're going to get the misinformation that we are now seeing online, where people who are not qualified to be giving medical advice are online telling people that, they can drink raw milk and look at the sun and that's going to be great for, their fertility.
Yeah.
We want to hear from the doctors who've spent their entire career, 20 plus years in the medical schooling system.
Yeah.
And then years in clinical practice. We want to hear from you. Right. We want to hear from the people.
We also noticed that as a major gap, which is why we're trying to sit down with various professionals in a variety of different segments to offer more critical information, science-backed evidence and whatever the subjects are. Right. Because back in the day, it might have been like Women's Health magazine that was accredited by real people. But now it's random influencers who are causing total disarray.
Well, there's no criteria now to be an expert, right?
That's why you have to really look at the letters behind their name. And there's also been, shout out to some of the fertility doctors that we know and love. The past year, quite a few of them have put out different books as well that talk all about fertility, the fertility journey, how to optimize your body. Those are the people we should be listening to.
Right, right.
They know.
And then my question is always how do we get that material into people's hands, right? Like we're in this, TikTok, Instagram era. How do we go back to books and evidence-based information, being presented in the way that it should be presented? Like, how do we get there, right? I mean, it's sort of almost a rhetorical question, I think, at this point, but it's.
I think consumers are getting a little bit smarter with what they take in where they can. But, I would say our audience and a lot of your audience, people buying your products, are highly ambitious, working really hard, trying to balance it all. Love the fact that you've kind of created a solution in a box for a lot of women, taking that mental load off of them. Do you think, the overworking and the burnout and just women being stretched too thin in society has any bearing on their fertility today?
There's nothing that's been proven that links everyday stress to fertility. And I think when people are going through a fertility journey and they'll hear, don't stress, and then you'll get pregnant, is one of the worst things.
It's insane.
I've heard that a million times.
So is there no research that backs that claim that stress contributes to infertility?
So extreme stress on your body can.
Yes.
And so if you think about, and this is actually common with female athletes, when they're putting extreme stress on their body, they can actually stop ovulating. And so that would have an impact. If you're not ovulating, you can't get pregnant. Those are in extreme scenarios. But as it relates to everyday stress, as of today, that's not something that many doctors will say has been proven clinically. I think it's really unhelpful to tell someone that they should not think about it and you go on vacation and you'll get pregnant. I do think there are studies and there are more bodies of evidence that are talking more about inflammation and fertility, and stress and consistent stress can impact inflammation in your body. And if you are constantly in a low-grade inflammatory state, that will have an impact on your hormones and your fertility. So instead of, thinking about like, just don't stress and go on vacation.
It's more stressful.
It's more about like, how are we treating our bodies holistically? How are we thinking about our reproductive health as, our fifth vital, the same way that we're thinking about our whole health? And how can we make sure that we're doing the things in our lives that help us not just for this specific thing, but overall be strong and resilient people? And that involves the things that you need to be doing, which also help lower inflammation, like sleeping your 7 to 9 hours, like eating your Mediterranean diet, exercising every day, lifting your heavy weights. So we have to think about it holistically.
Right. I remember the amount of stress that with when we were trying to conceive both of our kids, that the sort of anti-stress narrative put on me. Like, I just remember, it was all of the things, right? It was like what you were supposed to do, like after you had your IUIs or your IVF, like having your legs up in the air, doing the acupuncture, doing the yoga and Pilates every day, and like sitting under a heated lamp. And I just remember
I'm just hearing you say that, getting anxiety.
It was insane.
It's a full-time job.
And you wonder how much of it is, a bit predatorial, right? Like not on the part of the physicians necessarily, but of perhaps the industry, right? Because you are willing to do anything, right? You're willing to in that phase. I remember especially after I miscarried. I had one of my miscarriages at the end of my first trimester. It was the beginning of second trimester. And I remember at that point, I would have taken like snake oil if someone had said that it would, contribute to my fertility. So it's wild.
It is wild. I think that physicians generally practice in the best interest of their patient. They practice evidence-based medicine. Yeah. It's the same thing in the integrative care space. There's great evidence behind acupuncture. Yeah. There's great evidence behind many facets of naturopathic medicine. And, registered dietitians are amazing. Where we have to, of course, be careful is where you start seeing crazy claims as it relates to products and procedures. And that's where we as consumers really need to have our ears perked up to ask the questions, right. And also make sure where are these claims coming from and what is the evidence behind them. And that's a really important piece of what we've done at Bird&Be.
Right.
We've done the next layer of clinical studies. We are Health Canada licensed. Mm-hmm. So
that's what I was going to ask next. Like, what licenses do you guys have? And if you're Health Canada licensed, are you FDA approved, or that's more OTC?
Very different. FDA does not approve supplements pre-market. It is a very different market. So in Canada, you are required to have a Health Canada license pre-market before you sell your supplement. It is a natural health product and it is regulated by Health Canada. That includes anything you put on your box, down to the product name, the claims. And so Health Canada has to approve that. You have to submit clinical studies for your claims. The clinical studies that we've done are way over and above what is required. Mm-hmm. When you're going to make an application to Health Canada, your formulas have to be based on some science, right? So you do have to submit evidence behind the ingredients and the studies that have shown the ingredient does X, Y, or Z in order for Health Canada to approve the amount of the nutrient that's in your product, and also for the claims that you make around the product. We then went a step further than most companies in the supplement space do. We've done 3 clinical studies on the finished product on our male fertility power packs, and we've been able to show impact. So not just on the ingredients and the inputs, but then what happens to your body after?
Right.
Which is great. And also being in that kind of vulnerable state when I'm looking for a brand for whether it's for, husband's fertility or my own from a prenatal or postnatal postnatal product, I'm looking for products that have been validated by things like clinical studies. It gives me reassurance. But it's interesting because I think when Jess was talking a little bit about kind of the fear mongering in society and this like pressure we all feel, I see your brand as kind of cutting through that and being like kind of more of a support for women, which is obviously intentional. As
a
opposed
support
to,
and a resource.
right, as opposed to just like you need these vitamins because or else, right? Which is like I feel like what a lot of brands will do.
Yeah.
And even postpartum, when I was just scrolling on my phone somehow ended up becoming like everything possibly bad in the universe that could happen to my child. So I can't imagine what it would be like if I was, struggling with infertility, like what my feed would be. So it's like brands like yours that actually care about education, transparency, and supporting women. I think is really like, it's nice.
We get it because we lived it.
Yeah.
You cannot say certain things to a population that is experiencing one of the most vulnerable journeys and expect to have the positive impact that we intended.
Right.
We know how our customers feel because we were those customers.
Right.
And we believe so strongly that if we had a resource like Bird&Be, the journey would have been so much easier and so much more supportive. If we can be a tiny piece that alleviates a little bit of that stress during this very, very tumultuous time, like that's why we're here.
Yeah. And a tiny piece in this environment is huge, right? Because you're going from zero. I can speak to my own experience. Like if to have had a resource like this when we were going through it would have been invaluable. And I want to come back to the personal part after, but I want to circle back to the male infertility piece because you speak a lot about this. And I think it's something that a lot of people don't realize, but that men play a significant role in this whole process. So, and I love how you speak, you speak very candidly and very passionately about this, but why is it that women end up carrying most of the weight of this conversation?
Well, historically, we've thought that this was a women's issue. When you think about the pregnancy, it's happening in our bodies. And if you go back as far as, time, women, I think our role in fertility was misunderstood. So my favorite anecdote is the Henry VIII, where he kept executing wives for not having a son.
Right.
But the sperm is actually what decides the sex of the baby.
Yeah. Newsflash,
and so,
Henry.
We historically have been focusing on the female, but the male is half the equation. An embryo is half sperm, half egg.
Yeah. You
would think that at some point sooner we would have.
Right. How was that not talked about? How was everyone not talking about that until
I genuinely only learned about it after reading up on fertility. And it's like you might learn it every day. I even driving yesterday to my husband, I'm like, do you know that 50% of infertility cases are because of you?
Yeah.
And he was like, he just responded, he's like, yeah, I mean, like, I think that makes sense. I was like, really? I'm like, I felt like it was like a 99.9% us. Like, I had no idea. I knew there was always a fraction, but to hear that, it actually made me, even though, it just kind of made me feel lighter for women in general to know that that's the scenario. And to actually know that there's a product where you don't have to like constantly be like saying to each other, like, oh, I don't know. It's like, okay, just order this product, test it, see if it works.
And to involve men in the conversation early does exactly that. It takes the burden off of the female.
This to me, like we're familiar with your whole product line. I want you to talk about this in particular. So this is the sperm test. This is for at home. This to me is a game changer. Tell us about it.
It is a game changer for so many reasons, but I would say one of the primary ones is it changes the approach to even getting started on a conception journey because there's such stigma and hesitation on the male side still. So if you are going for all of the testing and you are making sure that you are going for your blood work and you're, going for your checkup and your vaccines are up to date, you're going to the dentist, we can talk about that too. These are all important things. The male also has to make sure that he even has sperm in his semen.
Right.
Because you won't know by looking at it. It looks the same. It looks the exact same. Sexual function could be fine. And so if you're at home trying for 2 years, only to find out later that his sperm concentration or motility is super, super low, you've just wasted really valuable time. And during that time, a couple can also experience a lot of stress,
Emotional trauma.
Sex doesn't become as fun anymore when you're having timed intercourse over a 2-year period of time. There's resentment that builds. Financially, it becomes more expensive. So if you can test at home, I like to say it's a very fun Saturday night. It's a 15-minute little experiment. It is pleasurable. Enjoy.
Is this at the beginning of the process? Like, when would you do this?
I mean, you can test your sperm as early as you'd like.
Yeah.
But ideally, if you're thinking about trying to conceive soon, I would expect now that both sides are getting ready and this is part of the process.
Right.
So you can test at home. Your results come to your phone in 15 minutes.
Oh, wow.
No excuse.
Okay, so this isn't, you're ordering this and you don't have to mail it back. Or, okay, that's genius.
It's incredible. And you'll know right away if you have a problem and you will not delay that doctor's appointment.
It sounds like magical.
It is.
Like,
and I'm laughing because I remember like going into these clinics, right? You're in a room that's off a waiting room. So you can hear everything that's happening in the office through these like paper thin walls. And you've got like, some shady stuff that they give you to like look at. This was, I guess, I don't know. This is maybe was it pre-iPhone? I don't know. But
like there's like a Friends episode of this happening.
It's like to have had this
in the comfort of your own home.
In the comfort of your own home without the receptionist like yapping out right outside the door when you're trying to do your thing. Or when you did it at home, you had to like race down with the specimen under your armpit and get there in like, 20 minutes or less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think in some cases, like there is still a sample that would be needed at some point in the process if you were suffering from severe male factor. But many people put off going in general because they are afraid of having that experience. And so you can start the process at home. We've also partnered with a second sperm test in the US that is a mail-in test that is an actual diagnostic, and it's provider facing through Mate Health. And so it will measure over and above what we can measure with the at-home test. It will measure morphology, DNA fragmentation, and it actually can be used by the clinic. So you may not have to go in at all.
Wow.
So there are options.
Yes. And is this one through when you get your results through your phone? Is that through a Bird&Be app?
It's through an app on the phone.
Yeah.
And what comes to you is your readout of your numbers.
Yeah.
You get a video of your moving sperm.
Wow.
That's incredible.
You can share it with your doctor if you would like.
Wow.
You can post it on
You
TikTok.
can post it on social.
Yeah, you can post it.
Make it into a reel.
Perhaps in the future, everyone's like Bumble profile will have their sperm score.
That is genius.
A
Bumble.
sperm
You heard it
score.
here first.
I didn't know there was
Sperm
such thing as
score.
a sperm score,
Yeah.
but that sounds like something that
No, that should be
Well,
number one on your like personality outline, right?
I love that we're just even general talking about male fertility. I just feel
I
like
know.
people don't talk about it
I
enough.
know.
But if you're a woman in your late 20s or early 30s, and obviously a lot of our audience base are those age ranges, and they haven't really seriously thought about fertility yet, What do you think are the best 3 things you wish you knew or you could tell them at that age?
Great question. I wish that young women knew firstly that fertility is this gradual drop off over time. It's not a cliff. So I don't want women to be fearful or anxious or stressed about it. But I do wish women would go and see their doctors earlier because there are many things happening in your body that you might not be aware of the signs or the signals. And it is easy to go into your doctor and just get a workup and have the conversation about what you envision for your family. As a perfect example, we actually created an at-home version of this test. It's a FSH, follicle stimulating hormone test. We have a urine-based test, and in the clinic they'll do a blood test for you. If your FSH is high, that means your ovarian reserve or your egg quantity is at risk of being lower. And so it doesn't impact your ability to get pregnant today, but we don't know the length of time before that egg quantity is going to go down. And so if you take a test like this and you're 28 years old and you have a higher than normal FSH and you are not ready to start having kids, or perhaps you have 1 child and you'd like 3. Right. The advice from your doctor might be it's time to freeze eggs or embryos, just because we don't know what the timeline looks like. And it gives you options. And so optionality, I think, is something that has been incredible with all of this scientific innovation for women. We have options, but we need to make sure we're educated about that. So that's number 1. Number 2 would be we should be living the lifestyle that should be in, I would say, like a permanent state of fertility optimization. And this is impactful for your entire life as we go through the reproductive years into perimenopause and menopause and beyond.
I will say, like, so it's one of the things that I love hearing you talk about is just the whole state of, the fertility planning. The way that you want to live your life is probably the way you want to live your entire life, right? At every stage.
Yeah, absolutely. So we take care of the biological needs of our bodies. So we're thinking, again, sleep, exercise. We're not smoking. We're really limiting drinking. And I think our culture is doing really well with drinking less. Just great.
And alternatives. Like, that's a whole new recent market. We just did a story on that actually yesterday, but yes.
We're moving our bodies. And we're lifting really heavy weights as women. And then number 3, if you are in a partnership or a relationship, I think it's really important to have these conversations early. Have them early and make sure that your partner is on board with the process of being ready to conceive. Because if you're with someone who's refusing to do their part, then I'd think twice about who you're deciding to grow your family with.
Yeah, I think it's a really, really important conversation, that it's all great in your late 20s, flying out to Italy or partying in Ibiza with your fiance or husband, and then, fiance or boyfriend. I haven't been to Ibiza, but maybe I'm manifesting it with my now husband. But it's just, aspirational. But I just think, people don't think about these serious conversations. Like, you think like, I'll have kids one day, but like, kids to you might be 30, kids to him might be 38 or never.
Right. That alignment's so important. And I also think it's okay if you want to go fly to Ibiza and have a great time. It's not like you can't.
Are we all going to Ibiza?
Yeah, I think we are.
Are we all going?
Let's go from this.
But like, for the most part, you got to live in that like 80-20, 90-10 kind of, routine where for the most part, you're really doing a great job at taking care of your body.
The one piece that I didn't, because, we did talk about, you've spoken a lot about your personal experience with this. And what I love about this brand is the founder-led piece behind it. And because it is such an emotionally heavy topic, like, how do you, as Sam Diamond and Brianna, like, as the co-founders of a business like this, like, how do you carry that weight every single day?
Well, at the beginning, we were very involved in every single customer care answer. To this day, I still pick up the phone. So I talk to customers every day. And it's tough. I'm not going to lie. People share a lot with us, because of the nature of this journey. There is still stigma attached, which we are trying very hard to knock down. But there is this stigma, and people feel that because we're in this industry, they're dying for someone to listen to
and
them.
validate them.
And so it's not just customers, it's suppliers, our FedEx guy and our cardboard box supplier. Everybody has shared their own journeys. And if it's not them, it's their sister or, their aunt or their friend. It really impacts everyone. For us, although it can be difficult to hear some of the really challenging stories and journeys, it is so balanced with the joys. We are often the first people our customers tell when they're pregnant.
Yeah. So crazy.
We've heard from customers before they tell their husbands. They're like, "Oh, I'm pregnant. I need to switch my order." We get pictures all the time of Bird&Be babies. One of my favorite experiences.
That's so cute. I'm picturing like in your office, you have just a wall of Bird&Be babies.
Yeah.
We have these little onesies. They're really cute.
Oh my gosh.
It's adorable.
Wait, you have there's a Bird&Be onesie?
There's a Bird&Be onesie.
Wow.
Really
and I bet you
cute.
it's a really nice color and very well designed.
It's really cute.
And probably a really nice material.
It
too.
is.
It's probably very
Do you
cozy.
think they make it in adult size?
Would you like
What we're trying to
a
say
rainbow
is
onesie?
that's so wild.
We were recently at Ulta Beauty World in Orlando. This was a huge, it was a wild experience on its own. We were the only fertility brand there.
Yeah.
And
for people who don't know, Bird&Be is now
we are in Ulta Beauty in 1,000 doors.
That's incredible.
And we had people coming up to us to show us on their phones their Bird&Be babies.
Wow.
And we were just blown away that
that's so heartwarming.
Firstly, there was people there that already had gone through a journey with us.
Right.
We had women coming up to us and sharing obviously their stories and their challenges and literally in tears over the fact that a brand was there to support them in a way that made reproductive health mainstream.
Yeah.
And it was very emotional for us to see how much of an impact, but also so beautiful.
Yeah.
Ulta is like every CPG brand, well, at least in the beauty and wellness space, like one of their pinnacle places they want to get distribution. Like, how did you go about securing such a great distributor?
They came to us.
Oh, wow.
Whoa.
Yeah. We have an amazing buyer at Ulta who really believe that as part of their wellness expansion, that fertility and reproductive health was essential.
Wow.
And they have just been such wonderful partners. We have opportunities to educate their teams and associates, not just about the product, but about fertility.
Right.
We're giving a company-wide presentation in about 2 weeks with all of our doctors.
Wow.
They're going to be doing a fertility 101. So we're really, really sharing education at the highest level with people who this might have been their very first interaction with thinking about reproductive health proactively.
And how interesting that it's at the retail level. Like that's where you're doing the education. You're a lifestyle brand in a lot of ways, right? And I think that I would imagine that hearing the stories would be so validating. And when you're going from, carrying a lot of the heaviness and then you balance it with the good news stories. Were there points in the process where you ever thought, I don't know if this is going to work?
The entrepreneurial journey is that balance of daily saying everything is over.
Yeah.
And then everything is amazing.
Yeah.
Like, multiple
It's a roller
times
coaster.
per day, sometimes,
Yeah.
multiple times per week. We have experienced, what you think every challenge imaginable, but I'm sure next week we'll bring something brand new.
Right.
And you really need to dig deep.
Yeah.
And I think having a support system is the only way that somebody can kind of get through the lowest of the lows.
Yeah.
Like I'm talking global ingredient shortages and various supply chain issues and, just the most wild things that you can't imagine. A truck losing an entire shipment
Right.
that wasn't
Despairing.
located
Right.
for, 3 weeks. Just wild.
Mm-hmm. And with that support system, obviously there's like the personal support system, professional support system. Like, what does that team look like now that you guys have so many different products? How big is your team?
Okay. We have a team of 13 full-time women, all women.
Wow. Love it.
And we are remote. We're a COVID startup and we kind of stayed that way. And these women are literal angels on earth, the most talented angels on earth, I will add. We have experienced, I can think of a couple of very specific days where, it was whatever was the crisis of the moment. And these women stepped up with their fire hoses as if this company was their own baby. And it really is. This company is the baby of the entire team. And they stepped up to support not only the company and the customers, but Brianna and myself too. And I couldn't imagine working with a better group of women who are so passionate about the subject matter and our customers and helping people grow the family of their dreams. And I feel so blessed every single day.
It must be great working on your team.
I love my team.
Yeah.
I enjoy working on my team.
Yeah. We have a segment that we're now doing in every episode where we go to the team members of the woman who comes on the show just to get some feedback about what it's like working with them. And we just think it's so important for founders, for leaders to hear things that their team members have to say about them. So I'm going to read you some, okay?
Oh my gosh.
From your team members, from your family. I won't give names.
Okay.
You can find out after. But this will be, one of our last things that we covered. Okay. There's no problem too small or too big for Sam. She has the power to turn challenges into solutions and ideas into action. She's the best partner I could ask for in building this company, and I'm so lucky we found each other.
That's so nice.
With Sam in your corner, you can be confident that everything will be just fine at the end. She's an unstoppable force, and trust me, it's always best to have her on your team than against your team. The theme in our house is being brave. It's okay and normal to be scared, but you have to be brave and walk through. Sam teaches and then shows the kids that in real life.
Thanks, Dan.
Sam's passion and persistence through every hurdle is genuinely contagious. She makes the whole team believe that anything is possible, and watching her balance work, kids, and healthy habits is a daily reminder that it actually is. You've got a good village around you.
What an incredible support system. Nobody talked about chaotic Sam though.
No,
they missed that part.
But that's like all part of we all bring a little bit of chaos, and that's our edge, right?
Yeah.
What would you say being built for this means to you?
Being built for this is, how long can you hang on?
Yeah.
Right? It's about how long can you hang on until you ring the bell, and how long can you sustain? And that comes from the habits that you are required to do every day so that you can build that resilience of hanging on, because it's really sometimes a matter of like, how long can you keep persisting?
Yeah.
And I say this all the time, but when you are building a company, you spend so much time in discomfort.
Yes.
And you have to be built to sustain for long periods of time in discomfort. And that starts with your body.
Yeah.
And so if you are not living in a healthy body, it is going to be very, very hard for you to persist.
Yeah.
So for all you women out there, make sure you're moving every day.
Yeah. Lifting heavy weights.
Lift those weights.
Take those supplements.
Protein.
Good people around you.
And get that sleep.
the thing that I think we've talked about a lot is that we love that you're not just, or that Bird&Be and you and Brianna aren't just filling a product gap, right? You're reframing an entire conversation. And it's one that it's affected, I don't know how many of us in this room right now, but it affects millions of women and men. Timelines, ambition, biology, relationships, and the pressure to somehow make all of those things align perfectly, right?
And I think what's really interesting, Sam, about your story is that exposes how underserviced women are within the healthcare system, and that it was really never designed proactively around them. And what you obviously recognized early was that it wasn't just a healthcare problem, it was also an education, transparency, and consumer problem. And the success of Bird&Be proves that when women build businesses around real lived experiences, they're often solving problems the market ignored for far too long. So, Sam, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for being here with us, Sam.
Thanks for having these conversations, because this is how we change the game.